Yeah, let's not go that route.
It's gonna be the most fun. Hi, Joe.
Good to see you, Joe and Kim. I see you guys. And everyone here. Wow.
This is good to see you, man.
Hi, Nan.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, everybody.
Wow.
Hey, Keith.
Good to see you.
Hi, kid.
Oh, what a great group. Like family out there.
Absolutely.
Hola, Kenira.
Hola.
Un beso hasta Ponce.
Igual, hola Hugo, hola.
Mira quién tengo aquí, Kenira.
Ay, hola. How are you? How exciting.
Tía James también.
So good to see you.
Gonna
Hi,
come.
Joe. I see Joe.
Hey. Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Hello, hello.
Yes.
We can hear you. Great.
Yeah.
I was muted there for a bit. Hey,
Hi,
Steve.
Joe. It's Beatrice. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh. Yeah, there's Beatrice and Deborah, Zamora.
Hi, Joe.
Hey. This is so cool.
Hi, Joe. It's Carmen.
Hey, Carmen.
Hi, Joe.
And please give my, what's it called?
Condolences.
Condolences.
Oh, to Greg? To Greg for his back.
Yeah.
How's his back today?
He's there waving at you.
Hey, good. You're not in traction at
It's
least.
doing better today, so hopefully we'll see you on Saturday. As long as he behaves himself for the rest of the week.
What?
Oh. Then we'll go this way.
It's been down a long time.
Let me go back. So you got 3 pages of folks, babe.
Yeah.
Donna.
Okay.
Nice.
Kim, there are 71 people on this call.
Hi.
Oh,
Wow.
Hi,
Kim, Joe.
Hey.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Kim, I haven't seen you in years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Hey, Ray.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Joe. Hi, Kim.
Hey, Kim. Good
Hey,
to see
Joe,
you.
I have on a 1999 spine shirt.
Kim Nickerson. The spines. It's the spine shirt.
Spines, 1999, because I never throw anything away.
I have one that's about that old.
Okay, this is Judy Arroyo from NIAAA. I got some you beat. Okay, I have an original copy
Chicano
of psychology that he autographed for me before I was a graduate student, and I'm wearing my Albuquerque, New Mexico shirt because New Mexico.
Hi, Annie. Hi, Ed. Alan Kazarian here.
Hey, Alan. No.
Oh, hi.
Then let me go to the next page. There's
Hildebrand
Hildebrand.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Kim, there are 83 people now.
Now we're going to go to the next page. And
Hi,
here's
Ann.
Neil Gensel? I haven't seen you in years.
82 people. So Hi, Bill.
And there's Mark.
Oh, Neil. Oh,
Neil Gensel, yep.
I'm Brian Page. I live in a first name chauvinist world. I go by my middle name. You have John there, but it's Brian.
Hi.
yeah,
And look, Jim Bauer's here,
yeah.
right there.
Mm.
Everybody's muted.
Oh my, he looks like God.
He's always looked like.
And there's Audria.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Oh, here's my being.
Oh, there's the baby. Oh,
my God.
and Bill Green and Janice, sweet.
Oh, hi, Ulysses.
There's one.
Right there.
Wow. This is quite a gathering.
I know. This is amazing. Let me go to the next page. This is
Oh, and there are all the people that don't want to, yeah.
Hello, everyone. This is Carla and Gaetano. We work with Dr. Quiñones. We help him put this all together. Dr. Q is in the OR, but if you don't mind waiting 5 more minutes, and we'll start the program. And nice to meet you all, and thank you for being here and taking the time to honor Dr. Joe Martinez. We heard about him, even though we haven't met personally, but we know all the stories and all the influence that you had on Dr. Q. So if you don't mind waiting a little bit.
Of course.
Thank you. And that way other people can join in.
My goodness.
Tell them to rush that surgery because we want to get started.
All right.
Yeah.
I like the view out there on the mesa.
I think that's like his background that he has.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Is this from Arizona?
No, so the picture that I have, I think you're speaking of my background picture, Joe.
Yeah.
So that's actually New Mexico. I put that to honor you.
Yeah, I figured it was New Mexico.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure where.
Yeah.
It's like northern Albuquerque, like towards the Continental Divide territory.
Northern New Mexico is a country unto itself.
That's right.
Cerritos lives.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Get
Despite the fact that the Texans tried to conquer it.
It's Craig.
Crawling into Santa Fe,
There's Ariel and Aaron
begging for water, right?
up there in the corner.
Mhm.
Craig,
Yeah,
Leanna Kenny.
My goodness.
Sorry, Joe, I was on mute when I said hello before. It's Jim Bauer.
Hey,
Jim.
Jim. Wait, get back to God. Where are you?
No, I'm now in.
There you are. Oh, now you're not God anymore. Okay.
No,
Oh, I kind of liked you as God. You were really something as God.
Janice?
well, I have variations on that if you're interested.
Eric.
I was on mute too, Jim. So this is Ed Kravitz. Hi.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, wow.
Hi, Ed Kravitz from Ann.
Hi, Ann. Hi, everyone.
This is Eric Jarvis joining.
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
I think that I was mute when I say hi to Joe. This is Beatriz Vasquez from the 70s when we were doing research together at Magos Lab. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. It's so good to see you.
So good to see all of you.
Hi, Joe and Kim. It's Ken Maynard. You know, I'm looking at this fantastic plethora of people from the past and some from the current. And Joe, I'm wondering what, out of all of these people that you're seeing on here, what is your earliest memory that you can remember from people on here? I mean, I'm seeing John Hildebrand and Ed Kravitz and Edgen. What is your earliest memory of meeting maybe one or two of these people?
I think the first one I ran into was Zondervan because we both were enrolled in the neurobiology class. And that's how I first got involved in MBL. And that sort of took off from there. So we became friends and colleagues, and so he was very important to the development of science, actually. So, and now he's bald too.
Oh, no. No. Where's your dog, Joe?
Oh, dog.
Baloo.
There
Oh,
it
there he is.
is.
Oh, all right.
Don't wake me up. Yeah.
Another Great Dane. We couldn't resist. Don't say that. Come here. Oh, I know. This is Baloo.
Oh gosh, it's so good to see these faces. It's crazy.
Hi, Joe. This is Pragati. Hi, Kim.
Wow.
Pragati.
Hi.
This is Anne.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Anne. Wow.
It's nice to see you all. It's nice to see you, Joe.
Yeah, it's nice to see all of you.
Yeah.
Got 103 people here. You can't even fit them all on one screen.
Yeah.
Hi,
Joe.
There's 100.
Harold and Lynn here. Hello.
Hey. How many pictures are in the other one?
And Greg, that Joe is asking about the other one, the recording that we have.
Oh, how many photos? Oh God, do you know, Greg? Yeah, Greg is going to check. So, you know, about a month ago, we invited a bunch of people to send photos and video testimonials to Joe, and we assembled it all together into a package. First some videos, and then some photos, and then some more videos, which we sent them a link so that they could click on it in Google Photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Google Photos and watch it. So Joe's just asking, and I want to thank everybody here who contributed to that. I got great photos, I got great videos, we had all kinds of stuff from people for that. It was a really nice presentation. And then we did a second one of family photos and videos, and we just got some extra photos from your daughter Audrey yesterday that we added to that and sent you a new link. 75 photos in the original presentation. But that doesn't count the family photos. There's probably another 50 or 60 in the family presentation. Oh, Rick says a lot more.
Yeah.
140.
Oh.
I'm just wondering if it's possible to combine the two sets.
Don't look at me. Beyond my grade. But somebody probably could. The recording.
We can talk about it on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What's Saturday?
That Greg and Anna come in.
Oh,
As
right.
long as Greg doesn't hurt his back again, we're coming to visit you on Saturday.
And bring in wine too.
Oh, of course, lots of wine.
Yeah, we'll put you straight out.
Wow, this is just so amazing to see these faces again. It's awesome.
The same for me, by the way. I haven't seen so many here in so long.
Oh, it's fantastic. Wow.
So maybe it's 5:10 here. It's 2:10 over there. So maybe we can start with the program, and then Dr. Kim will just join us. So Dr. Ulises, is he around there? I saw that he joined in.
I'm here.
Okay.
Can I say hi to Joe? This is Yona.
Yes. Yes.
Joe and Kim. Hi.
Hi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys.
Wow.
Joe, you look good.
Yeah.
You look good.
And Zebra.
Yeah, thank you. You kind of disappeared in the fog.
Yeah, I'm calling from Ethiopia. I'm in Africa right now.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of dark. Yeah, it's
Wow.
almost midnight.
Thank you for coming.
No problem. Always pleasure. He's my second dad. So all right. So it's about time again.
Dr. Elises, if you can start with your presentation and your remarks, that would be great.
Sure, I would love to.
Adios, Carlos. Okay, go.
All
You
right.
can share the screen. If you are allowed to share the screen if you want.
Oh, okay. All right.
Ah.
All right. So I hope that everybody can see. Anyway, thank you for all of the organizers on this, and I'm very, very honored. Joe, Kim, everybody here to be able to say just a few words. I wanted to just give a little bit of my perspective of Joe Martinez. So I first met Joe in the mid-90s when I was an undergraduate student in UT San Antonio. And I had no idea who Joe Martinez was. I was an engineering major at the time. Wanted to make money fast, maybe in 4 years. And I was a work study student in the library. And I learned through another professor, Luis Aro, that there was a program through the NIH to help students of underrepresented backgrounds in science to work in science. And one of the first persons that I interviewed after I got this award was Dr. Joe Martinez. And I had no idea that he was new in San Antonio. He didn't really tell me his whole lineage, if you will, which I've always appreciated about Joe till this day. So I had really no idea what I was walking into. And this is a time where the laboratory of Dr. Joe Martinez also included in the physical space, Brian Derrick's laboratory, and also Dr. Edwin Barea Rodriguez. And there was another fellow that joined the lab in addition to Greg Villarreal, who's also in this call. Carlo Martinez was a Mark student. Greg Villarreal joined the lab as a Alliance for Minority Participation. And I also joined the lab, and I was working directly with Dr. Edwin Barea Rodriguez. Carlo Martinez was working with Brian Derrick. And so that was my very first introduction to working in a research lab. And so when I think of Joe today, the main reason that I wanted to show you this is because on the top left is the Sandia Mountains in Nuevo Mexico, which is where Joe's from. And I really appreciate that because before I moved to Arizona, I worked in a very small college there in Española, New Mexico, in the northern part of the state. And when I first met Joe, I didn't know anything about wood pole. I didn't know anything about the importance of diversity in science and neuroscience. But through him, I learned about Santiago Ramón y Cajal, and I learned about his fascination for history, which was very infectious to me. And now I am a big fan of history. And I remember one time I told him that I had a pet peeve when reading the scientific literature. I told him, why is it that people don't cite a lot of the original works? I cannot stand that. And I think he said something like, yeah, me too. So good for you that you're reading the classics, the history of neuroscience. And my very first scientific meeting ever was SACNAS, before Society for Neuroscience. And so that's something that I also want to mention because when I think of Joe, I think of you as a lifelong pioneer in the field of neuroscience, along with Jim Townsend, which I met in Woods Hole, to provide opportunities for students. And the work that I attempted to do in Northern New Mexico College was the only thing that I was trying to do was what I learned from you in terms of providing other opportunities for students. And I remember that Joe mentioned to me, are you sure that you want to go to a little college in Española, New Mexico? I had never even heard of Española. And I'm so grateful that I went there, Joe, because I learned so much about what I thought I knew already in terms of helping underserved communities. And in this particular area of rural New Mexico, it's essentially now like my second home. So I remember Joe calling you all sorts of times about issues that I had, you know, no money, and you know, by being ingenious in your advice and your recommendation that you have given to so many, I started working with cockroaches and with students, trying to do things in the lab. And so this picture that I'm showing you here, Joe, if you remember, that's when you gave the keynote at one of the student symposiums in Northern New Mexico College. That must have been in 2015. So I'm so grateful for your mentoring. And just to show you that the picture on the far left, it's when I was taking a road trip. I visited the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, one summer, and I stopped in Chicago. And there we are having barbecue. And then, of course, a picture of Eel Pond, which, you know, so many memories. I was chatting with with James earlier when I was a course assistant for spines and sneaking into other courses like neurobiology to hear the lectures. And, you know, Ed McCluskey would be like, who is that guy? He doesn't shut up. He's always asking questions. And as a result of that, the next summer, I attended spines as a student. And then the summer after that, the neurobiology course. And that completely changed my whole life, Joe. You know, through you, I met a bunch of other people. Many of you are here on this call. I met people like John Hildebrand, who I have now the honor to call him a colleague. We're in the same department now. I would have never believed that was something, a possibility for me.
I heard he finally got off an airplane.
The last thing that I want to share is something that really touched me. I was digging through photos and pictures to put this little presentation together, to kick it off. And I found a little comment that you shared with me. I'll just show it to you guys. And I had not seen it. I had not seen this comment. I saw this today. And so Joe Martinez wrote on the wall of Northern New Mexico College Facebook page the following statement. And I just saw this today, Joe. And you know, you guys can read it, but I'm gonna read it out loud because it speaks to me so much today, just like it did when I first met you. Anything that you have accomplished is due to your brains and motivation. I only pulled the starting cord on the motor. Thank you, Joe. I know that I speak for many, but my life today, I would not be where I am without your intervention. And one last thing that I'll share that's funny. So I did, the years that I did my PhD with Joe, I coincided with Pragati. I coincided with Jesse Rodriguez. I coincided with James Orfila. And so in this very small area, right across Joe's office, we had James Orfila and I always talk in Spanish. And he wasn't always professional. And Pragati, who was a new student and from a different country, picked up on the Spanish that we were doing. So every now and then, Joe would have to peek out of his office and say, hey, James, Ulysses, keep it down. Because James and I were, you know, we're throwing carrilla, we were speaking Spanglish, we were throwing jokes. And as many of you heard James earlier, that hasn't stopped. And that's the kind of friendship that I discovered through people like you, Joe. Greg is in Indonesia right now. I know that he's on the call and, you know, I still communicate with Greg. So thank you so much for this. This is all I have. Love you, Joe. Love you, Kim. I know that your whole family is here too. It's so awesome to see you all, and I'm just thrilled to be here. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank
right,
you.
I gotta stop sharing the screen.
Yes. if you can do that, and then we can start preparing for our next speaker, Dr. Ann Eaton.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, perfect. Thank
There's someone. Oh, look at the hair.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
now we're dealing with ancient history. So this is a picture of the Department of Psychobiology at UC Irvine in the early fall of 1975. And the two red circles on the left is Joe when he was a postdoc in Jim McGaw's lab at Irvine. And just to the right of Joe in the other red circle is me. So when we were younger, Joe had long hair, I had short hair, and we were colleagues from way back then. Now we were in different labs, so we weren't particularly close then, but I know Joe from way, way back in 1975. And when I left Irvine and he left Irvine, our paths diverted. Joe went off to become a famous learning and memory researcher at Berkeley, and I went off to the East Coast, first to Rutgers and then to Einstein, and was in the much more important area of hormones and behavior. And didn't see too much of Joe until while at Einstein, I started working on diversity programs for our institution, and really found that to be an interesting and important thing to do. So wanted to become more involved. And it turned out I had a very talented young graduate student from the University of Puerto Rico who came into my lab with this 3-year fellowship from the American Psychological Association, well, actually from NIMH, but a program administered by the American Psychological Association. And she spent the summer at this thing called Spines, which I didn't know anything about either. But she came back so excited about this, and I, at that point, was interested in getting more involved nationally in diversity programs. And so this happened. I actually found out about that diversity program in neuroscience that was administered by the APA and led by Joe and James Jones, and joined the advisory committee for the DPN program. And this, I'm not sure which year this was for the advisory committee. Probably not too many years before the demise of the program. But there are several of the people in this photograph who are on the call. Eddie Castaneda is here, Ray Nishi is here, Alfredo is going to be here, John Hildebrand is here. So a lot of the people who were part of the external advisory committee for this APA administered training program became my friends and colleagues, including Joe. And this was really my first immersion into ways beyond my institution to think about and contribute to diversity. And this led to my being part of the Spines program at Woods Hole in the summer. And it was always entertaining every summer to see what sort of outfit Joe and James Townsend and the other members of the course faculty would wear during the 4th of July parade. So with the 4th of July coming up in just a couple of days, I couldn't resist showing at least one of the photographs of Joe from the Spines 4th of July parades. So many of you here are alumni or course directors or faculty from the Spines program. You know how important it has been to the development of talented underrepresented group members in neuroscience. And here is a photo from last summer at the Martinez Townsend lecture. So Joe and James Townsend made such contributions to the scientific and diversity and inclusion environment at Woods Hole and the MBL over the many years that they were there, that eventually they developed an endowed lectureship so that during the spines course, they could bring in a speaker to talk to the spine student, give a scientific presentation, and speak about their perspectives on diversity. And last year, Joe and Jim were both able to attend that lecture with their wives. I believe it was Elba Serrano who gave the lecture last year where they were present. And this is one of my favorite pictures from that day. And the course, even though it had to be canceled this year because of COVID, they still are going to do the Martinez Townsend lecture sometime over the summer as a virtual lecture. So this is something that will go on and is a real testament to these two gentlemen. And I think everybody probably knows that we lost Jim about a week, actually just exactly a week ago. And it's a real loss to the community. And finally, not to rest after doing spines and the DPN and all the other stuff that Joe did, he's also been a member of the External Advisory Board for another diversity program run out of the University of Washington by Joyce Yen, Sherry Mizumori, and Claire Horner-Devine called BRAINS. This is a program that is really intended to go the next step after the DPN and spines, which focus primarily on graduate students and postdocs, and to work on the diversity of individuals moving from postdoc into faculty status. So this is a picture from one of the BRAIN symposia on Bainbridge Island that's sponsored by the University of Washington, where we were all doing our best to work on improving the diversity of the professorate. And I think that's my 5 minutes, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can move on to the next speaker.
Thanks, Anne.
And I appreciate your mentioning Jim. He's a really great loss to us all.
Yes, he is.
He was a wonderful person, and he was a co-founder, really, of the whole spines program.
Yep.
And he put a lot of energy into our efforts, and he made it a success. And so we owe him that.
Yes.
So we'll move to our next speaker, Dr. Edward Castañeda. Are you around?
I'm here, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let me see. Can you all see my PowerPoint? Oops, it started at the end. Hold on. Hold on.
Texas tornadoes, yeah.
I just ruined it. I just ruined the surprise. Dear Joe, I see all these people here that are so wonderful and have had such a big impact. I'm humbled to be able to share 5 minutes with you. So many people are going to speak about the many facets of your accomplishments. You've been a world-renowned neurobiologist of learning and memory. You have been a founder of modern Chicano psychology, a warrior for social justice, an advisor, teacher, and mentor, not only to students and postdocs, which is what is normally enumerated, but you have also been all of these things to faculty. I know because I've been blessed by your leadership. So you've been a special role model, and you've been a very special friend also. Thank you so much for everything you've done for all of us and for me personally. I can't move forward without acknowledging Jim Townsend and the special relationship the two of you enjoyed. It was clear that a soul tie exists between the two of you. Your dedication to each other was unwavering and unconditional. Together, you guys did so much more. And again, I'm grateful for everything you brought to us. You brought great waves of people together, nurturing a fellowship that exists for a lifetime for each of us. And you did it through all of your academic efforts and your efforts in diversity. Of course, this is a 4th of July barbecue at the cottages. But you did this kind of gatherings in many different ways, academically especially. I'm proud to say that I even marched with you. You can't cut off in the far left over here, but I'm marching right next to you. Okay, well, it's not a political march. This was one of many of the 4th of July Woodstock parades. And you and Jim took in stride, any costume the Spine Scholars cooked up for you to wear, like the ones that you see in the bottom half here. You maintained a sense of playfulness through the harsh challenges you dared to face. You were courageous, not just in putting on those costumes, but you were courageous to fight the fights for the good causes. And you showed us how to be courageous. Thank you so much for that. Your world-renowned leadership, and it is world-renowned, brought other heavyweights to mingle with Spine's trainees. And these students learned that they too can become leaders, and they too can have an impact in science and in justice. You are a role model to emulate. When I try to do my best, I think of you, Joe. Thank you so much for that. You'll see many group pictures across all the years of the Spine students that existed. Well, so these are the heavyweights that I'm behind on my presentation. The people that you brought together to mentor students. And you're gonna see many groups of pictures like this of the Spines classes that took place for so many years. Hundreds of trainees that you have lifted. Your impact has stretched around the globe because these are the seedlings that you have spread across the universe. They're all over the world, Joe. Your impact is all over the world, and thank you for that. And even among faculty, you champion diversity in many different flavors. I saw the little video of Jim last night, and it said that you were looking for mentors with heart. And that's what you brought consistently to Spines and to all of your diversity efforts. And there's so much more I want to say and celebrate, but in my limited time, I want to make sure that you smile with the last slide I'm gonna show you. You were like a tornado that changed the landscape of the world. Órale, con gusto. Thank you so much for your vision, your actions, your courage, and your love. And so enjoy this, because I know this brings a smile to your face.
This tornado.
Enjoy it, Joe.
Oh yeah, how we doing out there, baby? Canuto rock and roll time. Let's do it.
Échale, Joe. Dale ganas, Joe.
Voy a cantar estos versos, aunque yo no soy de aquí. Yo soy puro mexicano, soy de San Luis Potosí. Caminando y caminando, he llegado a San Antonio. Me encontré muy buen trabajo y también con el demonio.
Dale al acordeón.
Tell me a little Tejanita.
Joe.
That was great.
I
Thank
can't play that
you.
whole song for you, but thank you so much for everything you've done.
Well, thank you for this wonderful remembrance.
Absolutely.
Certainly one I'll remember however long I'm here still. And I really appreciate the, well, I guess all that you gave me in terms of richness of students and student growth. And, you know, you talk about me, but in fact, I think you folks are more important than I was in terms of developing the program. I think what we did, nobody's ever done. and to select the kind of students we did, you know, by the hundreds and spread them all over the world you know, was truly, I think, a remarkable accomplishment. And so I just want to thank you all for what you contributed to the program. And more than that, it's also, you know, all the students I had at UTSA, students I had in my laboratory. You know, my where I worked, you know, was a multifaceted thing, and it was kind of complex and had a lot of parts. And I got to enjoy that, I guess, in terms of development. And lots of people came from those environs, basically. And each one of you contributed in your own unique way. Of course, we have the outstanding student yet to show up, Alfredo, who we all know is a world-renowned neurosurgeon. But he's probably, part of the program. So I'll stop and let other people talk.
Thank you, Joe. Alfredo here. I just came out of the operating room.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Thank you,
Hey.
Kim. I'm sorry that I'm running late. I promise you that I was not drinking lattes. When I came, I was listening to the music from Eddie. I thought I needed to come in dancing or something. So I wasn't sure. But I figure that our next speaker is going to be Dr. Kravitz, because I want to keep us in time as much as we can, because I know a lot of people want to make comments towards the end. Ed, are you there?
I'm here.
Were you dancing? Because you used to be famous for doing the lobster dance.
Well, no, but I'm just sorry I don't have margaritas for you guys.
I know. That's what I was just going to say. Where are the margaritas? Those killer margaritas.
Well, here's a virtual one.
Wonderful. Well, Ed, take it away, because you guys are dear to me and we're connected in so many ways. Go for it, Ed.
Okay. Well, hi, Joe.
Hey.
Kim, family, friends, colleagues. I'm going to read this because, you know, Harvard professors can talk for 2 hours without a note, but 5 minutes is very, very hard for us. So I'm going to read this. Okay. Hi. Well, it's a real honor for me to say a few words about you, Joe. Our friendship goes back a long time, to the early 1980s, I think. A lot of it involves spines at the MBL, but it goes far beyond that as well. The MBL has been important in my life since my scientific career began in 1960. I still regard it as my scientific home. It's an institution that we owned, or at least thought we owned. Now Chicago owns it. And it actually could influence the direction that we were going in. We were pleased to teach courses there of the highest quality with the best equipment and the very best students in the world. We met the very best scientists in the world there too, in an informal setting where they had the chance to speak with and inspire so many of the next generation of outstanding young scientists. But as with so many academic institutions of that day, and even now, there were very few or no Hispanic or both Black students or scientists in attendance at the MBL who could have the joy, excitement, and pleasure of having the MBL as their real scientific homes. You, Joe, along with Jim, who sadly passed away last week, completely changed that when you suggested the establishment of Spines, a summer program in neuroscience, education, and survival at the Marine Biological Lab in Woods Hole. Since you proposed Spines, I've been a strong supporter of your efforts. I think I was involved in the first approval of the Spines program and with writing letters ever since then. All right, I got to find, and see now, that was an ad lib. I can't find where I am. All right. You guys have let me greet this wonderful group of students on the opening day of the course, to welcome them to the MBL and to spend half of the opening day with them. I've had the pleasure of watching these students for the first time in their lives pat a shark as it swims by. Well, a sand shark anyway, and have a squid squirt at them. Hundreds and hundreds of students have benefited from this spectacular program you created, Joe. The MBL's benefited greatly too by finding new groups of students and faculty to populate and possibly keep alive that wonderful institution. And of course, Spines is only one of the many, many successful ventures you have created to mentor and to support the next generation of Hispanic American scientists. There's another very important way that you've enriched my life though, Joe. That's because you sent us Alfredo, or I should say, the famous Dr. Q. There's a nice story about you sending Alfredo to us, Joe. When you heard that Alfredo had been invited for an interview for medical school from Harvard Medical School, you told him, when you get to Harvard, if you don't say hello to Ed Kravitz and Dave Potter, I'll break both your legs. I presume it's true.
It's a true story. It's a true story for sure.
It's a true story. I presume you meant that because one day there was a knock on my office door and a young man with lots and lots of hair on his head introduced himself to me, saying that you had told him to meet me and Dave Potter on his visit to Harvard. What you may not know, Joe, is that Alfredo and I chatted for well over 2 hours that day, finding that even though we had come from very, very different worlds, we really shared much in common. As a result of that discussion, I offered Alfredo the opportunity to work in my lab that coming summer if he would come to Harvard. And that began a wonderful friendship that continues to this day and that has been very fulfilling for me and Catherine, my wife, and it's due to you and your mentoring skill, Joe, that happened and that Alfredo had a great start on his spectacular career as well. Of course, I hope you haven't threatened to break the legs of all your mentees though, Joe. We even had Alfredo and Anna's wedding party in our house, and our daughter-in-law sang for them during the party. Joe, you've done so much for so many young Hispanic scholars. I know that in 5 minutes I can't properly acknowledge it all. You are a hero of diversity, Joe, an honor that is well-deserved, and we all thank you for doing that and for being a wonderful mentor, a wonderful colleague, and for you and Jim, of course, of being our friends. Thank you, Joe.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ed. Beautiful, beautiful speech.
Beautiful.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I'm just going to thank Ed for the words. He always has good words.
The best words.
It is true. I remember the very first time that I worked with Dr. Kravitz, and I had done this abstract for the Society for Neuroscience, and I was so proud of it. And I came and showed it to him, and he went to his office, and like no more than 15 minutes later, he came back with this piece of paper. The abstract was only about this much of the page, and the whole page was in red. And then he gave it to me, and he said, that was a good start, you know, and I learned a very important lesson. Because then a lot of my students, they see a lot of my track changes, except I don't write anymore. Now it's all by computer. So great lessons.
Yeah, Orfila used to get tired of seeing all my red marks on his papers. But he got used.
Yes, if I could just say one of them, was Joe. Yeah, he was right with Ulysses said earlier about how we used to always get in trouble with Joe's kind of looking over. Ulysses and I would always talk a lot of Spanglish back and forth. And he would always tip over and say, hey, James, can you come over here? I need to speak to you for a second. He said, but you're in trouble. So I would walk into with Joe, and same thing as the writing up, he would always write up on my letters or on my abstracts, write everything, make it better with him. And interestingly, just a real quick thing, I've always thought to myself, as everybody in here would probably attest to this, is that, or agree, is we have two types of parents. We have our biological parents, then we have our mentoring parents, our graduate parents. And Joe, I think everybody's expressing that he was some sort of a parent, a mentor, a parent type of, a person with everybody. And Joe used to do that with me very well. And interestingly, you always have this kind of fear of a parent, right? So every time Joe would walk me into his office, I'd sit down and he'd give me his lecture, unethical, and we know Joe's very straight. So moving forward many years, just 2 years ago, I was at home and I get this phone call, a message, and all it said was, hey, James, when you have a chance, call me. I need to speak to you. Now, remember, I looked at my wife and said, I think I'm in trouble, because I felt the same thing with Joe. I'll never forget that. It's one of those things that you just don't forget, but he's been a great person. And just one last story I want to say before I get off is, he's always been a straight shot. We know Joe ethically has always been really forward and never diverted in any way or form. I graduated my bachelor's, master's, and PhD with Joe. At the end of my master's, I get a real nice bottle of scotch, very expensive one. I walk into his office and I tell Dr. Martinez, thank you for your mentorship. Here's my bottle of scotch to you. This is a way to give you thanks. And he'll never forget, he took it out. He looked at it, he smiled. He goes, wow, this is a great bottle of scotch. He said, but I can't accept it. And I was like, what? He goes, I can't accept it because you are my student. I am your mentor. And he said, I cannot accept this gift. And I'll never forget that, because that shows you how much of a straight person he was, and honest. And he always expected the best, and the best of everything from all of us. So thank you, Joe.
Wonderful, Jim. Thank you very much for your amazing words. Joe, you want to rebuttal that about the bottle of scotch?
You want to rebuttal that bottle of scotch? Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I tried scotch all over the world, and I think James, was my mentor in terms of scotch.
We had a few.
Wonderful. Thank you, James. Well, to keep us on track, Dr. Janik, are you on the line?
Go to. So we did lots of work in the lab, but we also had lots of fun. And so here is a picture of Joe and Kim's wedding. And in this wedding picture, you can see some of the great people that Joe attracted to the lab that were just so wonderful to work with. There's Brian Derrick on the left, Gary Schulteis, Paul Colombo, and that's me looking much younger, but still with dyed hair. I never stopped dyeing my hair. But really the kindness and supportiveness and fun that we had as a group has always stuck with me forever. And let's see if I can get on. Here's another picture. Now here's me and Paul Colombo with Lilo, Domingo Rivera, another just fantastic person that Joe recruited to our lab. Lilo was from Puerto Rico. And just the diverse and supportive environment was really special, and I think it helped each of us be able to develop into the scientists that we wanted to be and to follow the things that we were most interested in. And the way that Joe shaped us was similar to the story that we just heard. If we were getting off track, it was just a very quiet, come meet me in my office. And I remember there was a time period when I was maybe not working as hard as I should have been. And I was coming in and working for a couple of hours and just leaving. And the postdoc in the lab, Susan Rodriguez, I think told Joe, you better tell Trisha to get in line. And so he invited me into his office one day and just sat me down and said, I hear you've been leaving on the early side. He said, this is a really great job, but you have to actually put in the hours. And you just said this in a very calm way, and it just really stuck. So you have a great mentoring style where you treat people with respect and kindness, but your words carry a lot of weight, and they like are remembered for years and years and years. Let's see if I have a last picture. Oh, so I just wanted to show this last picture just to say, again, thank you, Joe, for so much. You trained so many students, and you set us on the road for our individual careers and research so we could each find what we really loved and what fulfilled us. And here's a picture of me. I think this was 1988 at SFN. So I can say personally for me, it's been a long road, many decades, but it feels like it went like that just because it's been so enjoyable. And without your, careful mentoring, I wouldn't be here where I am today. So I'd like to thank you. And I know I'll just go ahead and say that I know I'm speaking for all of the other people from your Berkeley lab. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Thanks, Trish.
I have such a distinct memory of you, Trisha. I don't even know if you remember it, but it was some late night, and I think the lab used to meet like at was it Spenger's or something? I'm trying to remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Spats,
that was it. And somehow we had to drop you off in the parking lot down by the marina. And I remember you had bright pink hair, and you had your combat boots and tights and a pink tutu. And I was just like, you were awesome.
I don't remember that exact outfit, but I'm sure it's true.
That's why he still wears at Johns Hopkins now as a distinguished professor.
No, I wear that to lecture in. We had a lot of great times. We had a lot of lab parties. We went out dancing, and it was just a really wonderful, warm culture that you built, and that, I try as best I can to do for my trainees. So thank you.
One question.
Thank you.
One question Tricia asked me that no other student ever asked me was, how do I become a professor, basically?
Oh.
A research professor. And I always wondered why no one else ever asked the question. But I think it was one of those questions that sort of opened up almost like an orange, it caused some fruiting, or something happened to you once you asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that, you're now an endowed professor at Johns Hopkins, which, not too bad. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tricia. So we're going to have one more, and we're going to try to keep us in time for some remarks at the end. If I can ask the people who are here, maybe if you can potentially use the little device. If you go to chat, there's a little place where you can raise your hand, and that way we can potentially hear your remarks. I'm sorry to start with that picture, Joe, but that's where you met me. So I was thinking about what I was gonna say, and I just came up with the conclusion that it's interesting as I was putting these remarks over the weekend and trying to find a lot of pictures for many years that I had the blessing of knowing you. I was in your lab between 1993 and 1994. And as you know, a lot of people who were mentioned here, and you'll see Tricia, how also played a very important role in my life. This is how you met me. So not only that, what you don't see here is that I had 2 earrings on my right side and 1 in my left side. And somehow you believe that I had something to contribute to the laboratory. And I thought it was interesting that you spend your entire life studying memory, learning and memory. And I realized that what you have done for a lot of us is you helped us create memories. And you'll see what I mean as I am going through the years through this. So by the time I left your laboratory, that was me. So you cleaned me up. This is right before I started medical school. So you went from that long-haired dude with the with the earrings to that. And eventually, of course, this is our graduation in 1994 from Berkeley. And then I went to the introduction of a speech when I gave your lecture, and I found this quote as I was thinking about some of the lessons that I learned from you. If you only do what you can do, you'll never be more than you are. And that was Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda 3, not 1, not 2, but 3. And I got to tell you, these movies, I memorize the entire script because we would drive to Woods Hole every summer, you know, and the kids used to watch these movies over and over. So here we are, Ann and I, you know, driving to Woods Hole from Maryland and listening to the dialogue, and I would create. So these are the memories that you made me make, and the memories that we made together as a family. These were some of the pictures, right, when I went to interview, when I met Dr. Kravis and Dr. Potter, and Ed was talking about that's me with the long hair. This is at UC Berkeley in 1994, right, when Ann and I started dating before I left. That was my graduation speech that you can see, obviously, and that was thanks to you, and you believe in me for the first time. These are some of the pictures. You can recognize some of the players right there, you know, that I found. These are pictures that I took from you when you introduced me to the Martinez lecture in Woods Hole in 2011. So obviously I was very blessed. This is right before I was gonna embark in my medical school and continue to meet great mentors like Dr. Kravitz and so many of you. So I learned very early on that our dreams can come true. And I learned that from Walt Disney, if we have the courage. And you really gave me the courage at that time when no one really believed that that kid who can barely speak English. As a matter of fact, I didn't have my first dream in English until I was a third-year medical student at Harvard. And I went on, obviously, and to look for this better life. Many of you guys know I came to this country just a few years prior in 1987, and I was in Joe's lab in 93. Just 5 years prior, I had no money, I had nothing, and I have that fence between Mexico and the United States, and between Baja California and California, in a city called Mexicali. And I have that fence, and I remember I had fear, and I really was afraid, just like I was afraid when I first came to your lab, and you asked me to come into your office to meet, just like you did with Tricia. And I remember that I had gotten a scholarship from the Ford Postbaccalaureate program, and you welcomed me in your lab. And I remember you telling me that I wasn't gonna be in that lab washing dishes. I wasn't gonna be doing anybody else's work, that I was gonna be carrying my own project and try to understand the connection between the lateral entorhinal cortex and the nucleus accumbens, which at the time I couldn't even pronounce those words. And you believe in what I was doing, and eventually led to my very first publication. And this is where I learned something from you. I left your lab in 1994, and you can see that paper didn't come out on press until 4 years later. But it was you guiding me, and I used the same principles, you know, at that nowadays that you did with me. You said, this is your work, and it's your responsibility to get it out there and get it published. So you can see the different authors, you know. I don't know, Tricia, if you remember that this is my very first paper that you and I, now I feel so blessed to have had you as a mentor, and Joe and Edwin and Brian, rest in peace. But it was an amazing lessons that I learned from you, and you that you can actually see now the covers of different books, more than 8 books that I published, a transition over the last almost 3 decades since I left your laboratory. And this is the latest book, Mapping the Brain and Understanding Language. And I go back to that idea that I didn't have my first dream in English until I was creating memories, making memories. And now I get to study and navigate that thanks to the fact that you believe that I had something to contribute. I learned from you that if you surround yourself by very, very smart people, is one of the many ways that you can potentially succeed. And I took that lesson, and I remember sitting in your office so many times going over my studies. And then by the time I went to Harvard, you came to visit me when I was a third-year medical student. Anna, who's on the line, my wife, remembers that. You and Kim came, and it was a very, very memorable experience for me to have you as my mentor. Since then, many publications, much of I owe to you for my first paper. And as a neurosurgeon, is not, it's not common to have people who are NIH funded, and I owe it to you and your mentorship. And of course, Ed, who, as you heard, he became a tremendous mentor to me as well. And it was you who built that bridge between my experience at UC Berkeley and at Harvard with Dr. Kravitz. These are the many, this is already 5 years old. Since then, I have had no less than 200 people from all over the world that have spent time in my laboratory, in our laboratory, and trying to build bridges between what we do in the operating room and the actual laboratory. And that was you. And how little did you know that because of you, you have directly touched over 3,000 people that I have operated on, Joe. And it was your belief that I had something to contribute. Just imagine that. And you don't even realize that. More than 3,000 surgeries, more than 200 people who have trained in my lab. And I consider them, and you can actually see, Carla and Gaetano right here, and Paola in the back. These are your grandchildren in academia. And, they know about you. They know who you are. They read about you. They heard me talking about you. They heard me talking about Ed as well. And they have met Ed, actually. Ed Gaetano was and not long ago when we were, at a symphony, at a place here with Dr. Kravitz, and continue to remember you. This is what I learned, from you. Youth, Dr. Will Mayo said once that youth has visions of the future which are not shared in an equal extent by those of middle and later age. Youth is a builder of images and a dreamer of dreams. And I learned from you, seeing how you run your laboratory, seeing how you surrounded yourself. I took a lot. These are some of my early memories. 2008, this is us looking at your grant. I was blessed to be part of your grant. You can actually see us working, and it was a lot of work. It was not like we were hanging out. There was a lot of thinking, a lot of process. These are some of the early pictures. You recognize a lot of the people there that are speaking here that have played a very important role in my life. This was 2009, and I'm just gonna go quickly over some of these pictures. As you know, our team right here is putting all these pictures together and doing something special for you and Kim and your family. So you'll get to see all these pictures. I learned very early on from your lessons to be inquisitive. And in my case, both in the operating room and in the laboratory. This was 2009, Woods Hole. You can actually see how we arrived that night after driving for about 12 hours with the kids, talking about building memories, all right? Because this is about, creating. You are a creator of memories. That's us watching the fireworks, on and the kids from your house, from your beach right there. That's the students learning, teaching. For the first time, we brought in the human brains into Woods Hole. I don't know if they continue to do that, but that was about 2 years of work from you, Eddie, Keith, and a lot of people who were very hard to make this happen. And Hugo in my laboratory, who at the time was a postdoc, now he's a vice chair of the department. These are people who you mentor as well and working here at the Mayo Clinic now. So you can see a lot of the students manipulating the brain, looking at the human brain for the first time. And you continue to do that. This was 2010 at the spine course, more memories with my kids. You can see them getting older as we go along, all right? More pictures of a lot of us in Woods Hole. This is 2011, and you can see me with the kids. You'll see the transition, talking about creating memories. That's us together. Look at that, our beautiful hats. It's 2011. It's just, I have, as a matter of fact, over the weekend, I was wearing that very, very nice shirt. And I was just so honored. I have all my shirts from my years in Woods Hole. That's us together, working. That's with Pragati, who you actually was your graduate student, who I think is on the line as well. And she was a postdoc in our laboratory. And we're very blessed. That's all of us, our family, talking about creating memories and doing more work as dissecting the human brain, working together with the students. Hopefully one day they'll invite me again. I'll do some more human anatomy in the course. That was your invitation in 2010 for me to give the Martinez lecture. And that's your introduction. That's the email that I found in my archives dating back to 2010, August 24th, 2010 at 4:04 p.m. And you can see who you see right there. That's me giving the lecture at that time. That's us together with you and Kim, with our family, with some of your students who organized this beautiful event. That's the auditorium that, thanks to you, was packed. It had nothing to do with me. It was amazing actually to see all those people interested to see what we were doing in awake craniotomies and how we were collecting that tissue and building bridges. That's us running around, you know, as you can see, a lot of memories, a lot of, you know, pictures of us together. I know that you guys show a lot of these pictures already, more and more, but more memories. You can see the kids getting older, getting bigger. By 2013, you can see David already running in the front of this picture, holding a human skull already. And you'll see how by 2016, he was already a young man. So you see the kids getting older and growing in this beautiful event. That was the last time that I had the privilege and the blessing of attending the Spines course with all of you guys. And somewhere, that's the fireworks right there. You can hear the music, the sound of us looking at the fireworks, you know, taking more pictures together. That's with Eddie right there. That was 2016, the last year. We ran around doing the parade. As you can see right there, that's actually Penelope working at your house in the back, at the back of your house right there, right next to the beach. You know, they're playing and we are having, and these are pictures that I actually got courtesy of Dr. Maldonado Blar, who was so kind and sent them to me yesterday. You know, she wanted us to know this was last year, 2019, when you were, you know, in Dr. Towns, we had the, you know, opportunity to attend this event, and it was beautiful. And I thank Carmen for doing this and for sending to us these pictures. So as you know, you are a very integral part of my life. I have no doubt that you know, and so is Ed, the Plan B, Brad Pitt is partnered with a major company. They're making a feature of my life. Both of you guys are majorly featured as part of mentors and tormentors at sometimes, you know, at some points. So that was good. And the same principles that I used, that was actually when they announced a few years back that they were going to be making this movie in my life. And I mentioned that, you know, and trying to also remain humble and embarrassed, because the reality is that's not a story about my life. It's a story about all the mentors that I have had in my life, in my family, in my children, my wife, who's a saint. And you continue to touch bases, Joe. You know that I have a foundation. We go around the world. We do surgery, the most complex brain surgery in very, very poor people. That's Mission Brain. These are just some of the people that you continue to touch through the work that you have done and our mentorship. So I end up with that because we have, you know, Dr. Steve, you know, I don't know if you are there or not, but we figure that we end up with you because you sent me a lot of those pictures actually that you were able to collect through the years. So let's see if we can have Steve come up and share your screen, Steve. You ready to rock and roll? I saw you right now.
I am, yeah. I won't spend too much time because I know others want to talk, but I'm just thrilled to see so many people that I know. And I just like to say hi to Kim and Joe, and I see your kids are on. It's wonderful to see you. As Joe said, we go back to 1974 at a time when when we were both in Woods Hole. And we were stuck in the Lerb building in the basement 7 days a week, not the 5 days a week nowadays, but 7 days a week. This picture was taken later because you'll notice there's a new building up at the top. The Ecosystem Center wasn't present when we were there. And I got to know Joe quite well in that class. And then subsequently, we both James and Joe, I called him James. I miss James. James and Joe were open their arms and let me become involved in the Spines course between about 1996 and 2013. It was Joe who really promoted interactions between my students and the Spines students and allowed us to develop a laboratory for spines. That laboratory was not just mine. Al Menzinger and Stewart, Rhonda Zakpasu, and Dr. Q were just a few of the people who ran that lab program. And it was really Joe who inspired or who promoted that and allowed us to develop it. These are some of the people early on that that I know are on the screen who were involved in the course in various ways. And I apologize if I don't have pictures for everybody. I thank Ulysses for giving me some of these pictures I'm showing. And I think that what's important is that we all know Joe has special talent for mentoring. And he has a way of bringing out the best in everyone. So the mentoring is, we tend to think of students, but as others have said, it also involves everybody he makes contact with. And I just thought I'd just show a few pictures from the years I was involved of the many students. Take a good look at Ulysses. And some of you I know are online. You can enjoy the pictures, but these are the people, Joe, that some of the people that you've impacted through your mentoring abilities. And I had the joy of working with many of them in the laboratory. In fact, there are many of these students that I continue to interact with. You didn't make that picture, Joe, but you did make another one later on.
Yeah, I learned about tetrodotoxin.
Right. And I think that, I'd just like to thank you and Kim and your family for the friendship that we've had and continue to have. I know that my daughter Heather in particular is in contact with your children. And I'd actually like to thank you because I'm grateful for you teaching me to be a better mentor. So thank you very much. I appreciate the being able to speak a little bit.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. This is beautiful pictures, beautiful remarks. And I think that I like to make sure that we open it for a lot of people, that we have one more video that the students prepared right here with a lot of pictures that you guys sent, and they want to share it with you. I really want to give Paola and Carla and Gaetano this gratitude from us. Let's see if we can play it right here. Can you see it?
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Carla, Gaetano, and Paola who gathered
Yeah.
all the pictures from a lot of people, you know, from many of you guys, and more that we're getting in quotes and things like that. So I open it up for people who, if you go to the participants, there's a little place right there where you can raise your hand if you want to, and I think reactions.
I have raised my hand.
Go ahead. Was that Carlos? Carlos,
Yes,
go ahead.
yes.
Beautiful.
I know a lot of people want to say something, so I'm going to be brief. Joe, you changed my life in a significant way, and getting to know you and Kim meant a lot to me. And every time we run into meetings, you guys took the time to talk to me and get together with me. The highlight of my career was when you invited me to give the Martinez Town Soul lecture. You have no idea how much that meant to me. But what I want to say to you and to everyone is that when I came to Spines in 97 or 98, I came ready to go through the summer program, but ready to quit my PhD. It was too much for me at the time to be the only minority student. And after trying so hard, I figured I'd go to Spines and then call it quits. And Spines and you changed my life. And I didn't quit. I stuck it out. And here I am. And I am so grateful to you and the way you bless not only my life, but my career. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Carlos. That was beautiful words. Beautiful words. We saw some other hands. John, Dr. Hildebrand, we go way back too. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I have to say, before I go any further, Alfredo, that when I saw you with that hair, all I could, not even in my wildest dreams could I imagine hair like that. Anyway, it was beautiful. You know, let me just say that I've been trying to remember when I first met Joe, and I'm pretty sure it was about 40 years ago at a neuroscience meeting. And at the time, I was very interested in diversity training from experiences I had had in New York City in the 60s. But I got to tell you that Joe really lit my fire. And as I sit here realizing how much of a difference that first encounter has made, along with inspiration from my real brother, Jim Townsend, whom I first knew about 50 years ago, you know, it's been amazing what impact you both had on me. So it's great to see you and Kim here in the image, but also as I look at the screen and I see this amazing array of people, I realize that this is a big family that wouldn't be together if it weren't for you. So thank you for getting us all together and for inspiring us all. And I particularly want to thank you from me personally for including me in what has been some of the best adventures of my career. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, John. It's amazing because we go way back, how Joe brought us all together, because you spent time also in the neurobiology department with Jim and with Ed Kravitz, and then Joe brought us all together, and many of us are connected in more ways than we can possibly imagine. That's what I was saying, that he is a maker of memories. So thank you, John. I saw another hand. Dr. Thompson, was that you?
That was me.
Go for it, Dr. Thompson. Yes, please.
I'm so honored and so happy to be here. And Joe, I just want to, you know, I'll be brief, but I'm so proud to be part of the Martinez Research Academic Family. I met you in 97 when I went to Spines for the first time. I was doing my doctorate at the University of Wisconsin, and I really had no idea what Spines was going to be like. And like others, I think this was a life-changing opportunity for me. It opened my eyes to what could be done. I was a young Hispanic woman living in Milwaukee, and it was hard, it was tough, and I think I really had a hard time being able to see myself being successful in science. And coming to Spines and meeting you and Dr. Townsend and Eddie and Keith and all the others and Paco Gonzalez Lima at the time and all the others that were there, I think really set forth this network protectors. And I think that's kind of how I saw all of you. So after that year, going to SFN every year became sort of a lifeline. It was that opportunity that I had to reconnect with all of you and to talk to you about what I was doing. And as I was approaching my graduation, you offered me the opportunity to come visit your lab. And I cannot be more thankful for the time I spent as a postdoc in your lab at UTSA. I think that was a time that not only did I learn a lot academically and about research and learn a lot about the hippocampus and electrophysiology and learning and memory, but also a lifelong lesson in how to help others grow, how to build capacity, how important it is to provide opportunities. I was able to interact with James, with Ulises, with Pragati, with Bill Mylan, with David Peng, with Eddie, with Edwin and Brian Derrick and all the other amazing people that were there during that time. I was able to spend a lot of time with your daughter, Adria, who became a friend, who I still value. I miss her even though we don't talk often. And I think of the time spent with you and your family as a very special time in my life. Over the years, have moved on to Puerto Rico. And as you know, I'm here now as a research administrator and overseeing a research institute. And to me, the lessons I learned with you have stuck. And I carry that for, and I've carried that for the rest of my life. I really think it's important to be there to provide opportunities. I'm happy to see that there's some of my students on the call. Demetrio Sierra, who is now, I'm so proud, faculty at the University of Puerto Rico. I met him when he was an undergraduate at UTSA. And then he went on to, he followed me to Puerto Rico. No, he completed his doctorate in Puerto Rico. And I'm so happy to have been able to watch him grow. Felix Matos, who is a postdoc at University of Texas, El Paso. So proud of him and what he's done. Marian Sepulveda, Dara Fontanes, a bunch of other Puerto Rican scientists who, like myself, have been able to grow and develop because of you and Dr. Townsell and what you offered and the opportunities that you provided us. So, I was able to reconnect with Alfredo and help him on a Mission Brain initiative here in Puerto Rico. So I'm so happy to have had that opportunity as well. And I really thank all of you. And I thank you and Kim for what you have done and for so many years of just impacting lives such as mine. And I wish you the best. And I send you a lot of virtual hugs from Puerto Rico.
Thank you, Kinira. That's beautiful. We thank you for your kind remarks. I'm going to go to Dr. Bauer, Jim, and then Ray. And I have 8 people. So, I'm lining them up. I see them with their hands up right now. Jim, you want to go ahead?
Sure. And I went as a postdoc with no hair, and now look at me. So,
there you go. See, John, it's possible.
It's possible, yeah. So anyway, just need a comb over, John. Get with it. Anyway, I'm going to be brief, and I'm going to embarrass Joe, if that's okay. But I've embarrassed him before, so this is not the first time. So I met Joe when I was leaving Caltech and was considering going to San Antonio. And I was supposed to go to the Health Science Center, which I did, to work in the imaging center. But then I knew Brenda Claiborne and David Sensman and Charlie Wilson and Joe were all at UTSA. Joe at the time was chairman of biology. So I went to talk to him and we had an interesting conversation. I knew who Joe was, but I hadn't really spent much time with him. And so Joe typically started off, careful, understated, cautious, right? Which was his nature, is his nature. And then we started talking about the situation I was in at Caltech, and he talked a little bit about Berkeley, okay? And then the things started to heat up, and then we started talking about the wonderful potential opportunity of making, for the first time ever, a historically minority institution into a tier 1 research institution. And at that point, I went back to the Health Science Center and said, I will only come to San Antonio if I get an appointment at UTSA in Joe's Cajal Institute. So that's how I met Joe and started interacting with Joe. And this is the part, Joe, which you're not gonna like, okay? Joe is a doer He's an innovator. We all know that. He's devoted and dedicated his whole life. And he gets things done and has gotten things done. And you guys are all a manifestation of that. The spine's legacy is very important. At UTSA, Joe built a building, right? And it wasn't just any building. It was really the first modern science facility at UTSA.
This picture.
And beyond that, right, it's in my background. And beyond that, it was culturally interesting. Those of you that have been there know. So let me switch the background. This is the entrance. At the time, okay, UTSA buildings were all sort of generic gray for the most part. Okay, Joe decided to use this money to make a building that was both scientifically excellent and also culturally appropriate. By the way, the next big building that UTSA built had Hodgkin and Huxley, Watson and Crick, all those guys, okay, which means Joe's building is still the building at UTSA that connects his legacy, his history, a lot of your history to the university, which is one of the largest Hispanic serving institutions in the country. So that's a legacy. It's a remarkable building. It's a legacy. I was very pleased to be invited to participate in the Spines course. I started at Caltech working with Rodolfo Inas, and then I started a course myself in computational neuroscience. And then Joe invited me to participate in Spines, which is a very interesting experience because, of course, I knew a lot of the other people at MBL. And a lot of you probably know there were a number of conversations that I had about the two last pieces of Spines, ethics and survival. Okay, there were people at MBL, and there are a lot of people in science that didn't really think that that was necessarily an appropriate thing to focus on. Okay, it was kind of embarrassing, not necessary. The 60s were over, blah, blah, blah. If you actually participated in those sessions or knew something about the real status of real diversity in real universities, it was absolutely a critical part of the course. Okay. So I don't want to introduce, I apologize again, Joe, and I apologize to everyone else on this call. Okay, I don't want to introduce in what's a wonderful reminiscence the current state of things in the United States, but I want to for the following reason. Okay, and John Hildebrand, we can have a conversation about this later, and several of us can. What's different between now and the 1960s? What's different is that people like Joe and James and people in this room built you guys. Okay? In the 1960s, civil rights leaders trying to change the country had to rely on white people to support them, to give them political credit. Now, because of the work that's gone on, that Joe is involved in, James is involved in, a lot, John Hildebrand, a lot of people in this room are involved in. This, what's happening now, benefits from, is driven by, and has a legacy and a force, okay, that comes from people who've actually been in it, and people like Dr. Q, okay, who have their own political position in society. So that ultimately, I think, is an extremely important part. All the personal relationships, and I can talk about that with Joe too, not to the same extent. You guys can, because I annoy Joe and embarrass him sometimes, okay, and he was not my direct mentor, but I think this is a legacy, and it's a very important one. This is how things change. And change is happening now. And you guys are in a position to drive that. And that makes the world and the country a very different place.
Yeah.
So again, I apologize for the politics, but I think it's important to say that what all this adds up to, right, is that there's a consequence, which now I hope will actually turn something in this country in a significant way. So that's what I wanted to say. I apologize for taking too much time and being too political. And I apologize, Joe, because he will now deny that any of that's true. But I think it is true.
Thank you, Jim. We really appreciate it. It's great to be in sort of infusing a little bit of the reality of what's going on in the world. We're very excited to have everybody here. I'm going to go to Dr. Nishi. Ray, you are ready to rock and roll? Where are you?
I'm here.
Yes, I have you people lined up. You're gonna have 7 more people, so
okay, I'll be really fast. Joe and Kim, nice to see you again. Joe, it's been a pleasure working with you. You know, I got to participate on that advisory committee for the diversity program in neuroscience, where we were the ones who selected the fellows for the diversity focused T32 that NIMH funded for such a long time, and that you and Jim were the PIs on. And following that, I was very appreciative of the fact that I could teach in spines. And I taught for 8-10 years in spines, got to meet terrific students. And then I got to give back a little to spines when I became director of education at MBL, because spines had always been shoved into a little tiny lab space, never had a proper lecture room, and didn't have a break room. So after I got there, spines was able to achieve parity with the other summer courses. We gave spines a proper laboratory space, the lecture room downstairs, and a break room that was right next to the lab space. And I hope that that will definitely continue. I'm not at MBL anymore. But I also wanted to let you know, and I think maybe it's appropriate, I'm following up on the previous comments, in that Keith Trujillo, Jean King, Carmen, Eddie, and I'm blanking out on, I'm gonna forget somebody's name, Kevin, all helped me change the name of Spines from summer program in neuroscience, ethics, and survival to summer program in neuroscience, excellence, and success. So that's what Spines is now. And Joe, even though I'm retired, I'm still actively involved in diversity. I succeeded Ken Maynard as the chair of the Professional Development Committee for the Society for Neuroscience. And while I was there, I was able to push SFN to widen their definition of diversity to actually include inclusion and equity as well, and also make a stronger statement in their strategic plan. And my successor in that position is Jean King, who I also know is on this call. What I want to end with actually is a little bit lighter topic, because Joe, nobody's brought this up, but one of the things I remember about you when we were on the committee, the advisory committee, was that you were really fascinated by metaphors. Somebody would say something like, oh, he's all thumbs, and you'd go, where'd that come from? What does that mean? So Joe, I put something together for you. What I want to say here is, well, Joe, in the advisory committee for the diversity program in neuroscience, I was like blind man and an elephant until the camel stuck its nose under the tent. So I stopped beating a dead horse and jumped the gun by getting rid of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and you helped me do it. Furthermore, with Spines, we kept our eyes on the sparrow, never let the cat out of the bag. We also helped students get rid of the albatrosses around their necks. Afterwards, which came first, the chicken or the egg? We may never know. And then lastly, this quote comes from Nick Spitzer, but is very appropriate for our times today when you hear certain prominent people speaking on the TV. And what Nick said was, you can stack the shit, and stack the shit, but it still never cuts the mustard. Love you and take care.
Thank you, Ray. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you for your kind comments. I'm going to go to George. I have several people. Eventually, since you mentioned Ken, I have you on the line right here, Dr. Maynard. George, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So can you hear me all right?
Yes, we hear you perfectly. Thank you, George.
So one job that Joe did that none of you have mentioned is that I tapped him to join the National Advisory Committee for the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism in the past 4 years. And Joe served in all the fashion that you've all described. And I just want to tell you that I learned 3 things from Joe. One dates 40 years ago. I learned about neuropeptides, and he and I did some, I would call it seminal research on neuropeptides way back in the early 80s. But what I learned from Joe when he was on our National Advisory Committee were 2 things: mentoring and diversity rule. And I think it was really important to bring that home to one of the National Institutes of Health. And I can assure you that these are the 2 guiding principles right now for the Institute and how we are going to be responding to some of the issues that you've all been talking about. And so mentoring really is a critical factor. And I think the Spines program has illustrated that so outstandingly. But this 2 hours that I've been listening to you all even brings it home more poignantly to me. And then the diversity, you can't do research without diversity. Or let me rephrase that. You can't do good research without diversity. So those are the 2 principles that Joe has left me with. And so Joe and Kim, I say hi to you from California, the southern part. And great to see you both. And Joe, I could go on and on about all the good things you did while you were on council, and you probably don't even know some of the good things you did while you're on council, but thank you very much.
Thank you, George. That's beautiful. And we thank you for your kind comments, and everybody, thank you for continuing. I have a few more people here with their hands raised. Let's see, we go to Dr. Mizumori. Cherry or Cherry, I hope I didn't butcher your name. Go ahead.
It's Cherry.
Cherry, thank you.
So again, I will make it really short. I'm just it's so heartwarming to hear all these comments from everybody. I've experienced quite a few of them. I'm not going to repeat them, but instead, I just want to let you know, Joe, that I've always been in awe of all of your accomplishments, probably more than any other neuroscientist that I know. And so all the more I'm very just honored to be here, to be able to just to say a few words to you. So what I'd like to do is actually take you back to our days in Berkeley. I don't know if you remember this. So this goes even a little bit before Trish and Brian and Paul and so on. So kind of about 83, 84-ish when you arrived in Berkeley. I was a finishing graduate student at the time. And honestly, I don't know if you knew, but I was pretty disillusioned, not really sure if I really wanted to go on. But you, being the great mentor that you are, you listened to me and asked me basically, so what are your dreams, for research? If you could just pick whatever you want to do, what would you want to do? So I just told you what I would want to do, and then you said, okay, well, you come here and sit with my postdoc because he's now doing some, electrophysiology, and you explained to me why that would address that. And then you said, and I know somebody that you should meet. And I was just amazed. You literally went around and just went and called Carol Barnes on the phone and said, hey, Carol, I think there's somebody you should meet. And it's like with the shortest phone call, and all of a sudden I was on my way on a whole different path. And just to see that in action, again, something I've never seen before. And then you and I have been kept in contact over the years, and I just want to show you, just to tell you how life-changing, those simple actions are, and have now set me on a whole trajectory for my career. But even though I'm going through my career and so on, I think that the thing that you have taught me personally the most is really how to be the best, a good mentor, and trying to always improve my mentorship. And in that sense, I feel like you've taught me what's important not only for my career, but really for my life, because I think I carry a lot of those principles, right, to other facets, other kinds of interactions, even outside of science. And so, yes, you've touched gazillion numbers of scientists and clients and so on, but also just people in other ways, because your influence gets passed on to other folks all around. And so, anyway, I just want to thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jerry. Beautiful, beautiful remarks from the heart. We're going to go to Ken, Dr. Maynard. Also, we're connected. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Okay. It's impossible for me to come even close to all of the comments, Joe, that you heard. I first met you when you were in San Antonio through Alfredo.
Ken, we're having a little bit of difficulty with your audio. Maybe get a little bit closer to the computer. I'm not quite sure if it's the reception of the computer or something else.
Okay.
So.
Why don't you go to someone else and I'll change the audio.
Okay. Yeah, change the audio. I'm going to go to Gina. Gina, you want to, Beatriz, and then Gina. Beatriz, we go to you, and then we'll come back to Ken and see if we can change the audio. Go ahead,
Hello,
Beatriz.
Joe. Yes, I just feel so old just after listening to all of you guys and all the people that you had in your life, Joe. I'm so proud of all what you have done. We met when we were colleagues in the 70s doing research shoulder to shoulder, working while we were growing families, little kids, all the pressures of young life. And you came out of there as a wonderful, not only the scientist, but the mentor that I just enjoy hearing so much. Unfortunately, our life kind of separated in many ways for just life happened, but I always had a soft spot for my friend. And I just remember so many good things about the beginnings of memory work and the sodium nitrite and memory, all those things that we did with Bob Johnson and Sumira Murad and all those people. And you were such an important part of my life. And unfortunately, like I said, we have been separated for many years, but I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to come to you, share with all your family and your friends and your mentees and all the people that you have helped in life, and just seeing you still doing really well. And I just love what you have done with your life. I had success in my life too, and pain, just like anybody else. But I'm just so proud to call you my friend too. So good luck, best wishes to you and to your family.
Thank you, Beatriz. That's beautiful from the heart. Let's see if we can come back to Ken. Let's see if your audio is working now, Dr. Maynard. Go ahead. Are you there? We got disconnected. We're going to go to Gina. In the meantime, let's see if we can get him.
Okay, I know Carmen and Keith had their hands up before me, but I don't want to be the last word either because, but I just wanted to let you know, Joe, that your legacy lives on. As you can see, all of these people here, these are all Spines alumni that from 2018 that came to and met together at the Society for Neuroscience. We're in a restaurant near the Society for Neuroscience. And just like so many people have said before, so many of these students come persecuted, within their programs. They are actively persecuted or feel completely and terribly alone, or terribly unsure of themselves and what they're doing in academia and what they're doing in this path. And when they come to Spines, a lot of them don't know what it's really going to be about. They were told by someone to apply and they go, and then they are always shocked. And I just want to let you know that we are continuing the tradition that you set in motion, and it will continue. Every year there is another crop of 20 that are inspired and leave such good friends. They're just such good friends when they leave, and they maintain that friendship. So it's wonderful to be part of it as one of the co-directors of Spines now. So I thank you, Joe, and I thank Jim, both of you, and I thank Keith, and everyone else who has been part of Spines from mentor perspective, on behalf of these students and on my own behalf to be able to be part of it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Gina. Beautiful, beautiful words. I'm going to try to have Keith say the last words, but I'm going to go to Sebastian. Actually, Neil, you don't have your hand up, but I know you and I communicated. Can you unmute? Let's see if we can hear you. We see your mouth moving, Neil, but unfortunately the sound is not working for you. I'm going to come to, let's see if Ken is, Ken, are you back on track? You want to give it a try?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, now it's good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, you know, Joe, it's impossible for me to try and you know, go over and above what you've heard over the last almost 2 hours. So what I figured I would do is just take a couple of minutes to help everyone on this call. There are a few who are aware of your legacy, which I believe is going to extend beyond even things like spines. So about a little bit more than 5 years ago, Joe and Jim Council decided that, you know, funding for underrepresented minorities in neuroscience had really plummeted. And they decided that they wanted to create a perpetual fund to help endow training for underrepresented minorities. And so Joe and Jim started through the APA this thing which ended up being called SEED, the Scholarship to Enhance and Empower Diversity, to help train and develop, you know, merit-based neuroscience scholars. And the goal was to try and raise $250,000. And Joe and Jim, over the last 2 or 3 years, have not been able to keep up with, you know, with the intensity of this, and Ann Etkin has taken over. And I want everyone on the call to know that last year we reached and surpassed that $250,000 mark. So there is a fund that is developed that was initiated by Joe and Jim Townsell called the SEED Fund. And this fund will be training neuroscientists well beyond all of us on this call here today. And that's going to be another major part of Joe Martinez's legacy. Joe, on behalf of everyone on the call, and on behalf of people that none of us will even ever meet or see, thank you very much, my friend.
Beautiful, Ken. Thank you. Big round of virtual applauses from everybody. Gorgeous. I'm going to go to Sebastian Cota and then end up with Keith. Those are the last two hands that I have. Sebastian, you want to take it away?
Yes, hello. Thank you, Dr. Q. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Joe Martinez for being a good mentor to Dr. Q. Dr. Q has become a very big mentor for me. I don't know him personally, but I really look up to him. And I learned about you in his book that he made. And Dr. Q has been a big inspiration for me to pursue medicine. I'm going to be a first-year college student, but thank you to everything that you did for Dr. Q. And I have him here on my wall. So when I feel like giving up, I just look back and say, if he did it, I can do it. So thank you for everything you did for Dr. Q. And it's also going to help me. So thank you.
Gracias, Sebastian. Thank you. Well, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. As you know, I did these things because a lot of people that you see on the screen right here. And we thank you for your kind words. I'm going to go. I have two more hands. Okay, Cesar Bañuelos, and then Keith. Cesar, just raise his hand.
Sorry, I kind of came in there at the end real quick.
That's good.
I just wanted to show really quick, because I haven't seen Dr. Martinez in a good long while, but a lot has changed since then. As a matter of fact, I barely finished school like 2 years ago, and now I'm actually teaching some family medicine residents down here in Laredo, Texas. So I'm actually a first-generation Mexicano to leave Laredo, the boundaries of Laredo, and actually go on to do big things. And a lot of that has to do with Joe trying to helping me actually realize my potential. And I'm truly grateful for him doing that, because without him, I don't think I would have, actually pursued that dream. I would have kind of just maintained myself within the confines of Laredo and never left, And so because of him, I'm truly grateful. And I just wanted him to know that. I know it's been since 2006 that we haven't seen each other, but I did it. I actually did some big stuff. So it's all because of you. So thanks.
Beautiful, Cesar. Congratulations, and thank you for sharing those wonderful, wonderful details. I am going to go to Kalidis Salas and then Anne. I saw your hand as well. So Kalidis, you want to get going?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Dr. Martinez holds a special place in my heart. I met him in person in 2001 as a spines student, to where one, he quickly offered me a postdoc, and two, showed me how to be an activist, which even though I'm a neuroscientist and a faculty member and I do research and have my grants and published papers, I'm also out in the streets fighting for equity for children here in New York City. And when we first got to NBL, it was the first time that spine students were on campus, and there were rumors out there that they had to take us out of the cabins because we were the unruly students. In addition, that first week that we were there, they gave us permission to sit in the neurobiology of behavior course, but we could only sit in the back. And when we were introduced into those spaces, we were there because we were trying to become better scientists. And some of us really took that comment to heart, and we were like, wait a minute, where is this macro aggression coming from? Joe and James quickly got the directors of the courses to come meet with us so that we could explain to them how much those comments hurt, and how much it impacted us in our experience there at Spines. So I will say that's the first time that anybody has actually stood up for me as a woman of color in these spaces, and I owe that all to Joe. I want to thank him so much for all of his support throughout all these years. He opened so many doors for so many of us, and I get a little teary-eyed because he's just such an exceptional human being, and I just want him to know that we love him dearly, and we owe everything to Joe. And we hope that one day we can fit your shoes and continue on with your legacy of opening doors and elevating more people of color into these spaces.
Beautiful, Khalid. It's wonderful. Amazing remarks. A big round of applause for all the work that you're doing. And you wanna say a few words? I mean, this wouldn't be possible without you, and I see your hand is raised.
Well, my hand is raised on behalf of Elba Serrano. She really wanted to say something, but she had to leave. So she sent me a message and asked me to read it. So pretend that I'm Elba Serrano, okay? I can't do the accent, but so she said, please read this. Hi, Joe. I am so honored to have been included in this historic and uplifting gathering. As I reflect on what has been said today, it is clear you have a special gift. To imagine what you never experienced but knew was necessary, and then to make it real. I hope you have time to tell the group about your early days in New Mexico and the years in SFN before there were spines. Your story is one of persistence and grit. A person of few words and a leader by example. Thank you for all you have done for us. Abrazos, Elba.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anne. All righty, Keith, we'll have you say the last few words, and then we'll have Joe close it up.
Wow. Thank you, Alfredo. And I'm so honored to be a part of all of this. And I'm starting with my avatar up because that's a picture in front of Eel Pond at Woods Hole. And you can see the rainbow coming on overhead. And it just shows, I don't know, metaphorically, just what an important place the NBL has been for so many people, and for me in particular. And so many people have commented on the impact of Joe professionally. And I just want to add one more thing that many people may not be aware of, but Joe was a founder of the National Hispanic Science Network, which is an interdisciplinary group that brings together people that, from anthropology, from sociology, from neuroscience, from so many disciplines to think about the brain and about drug abuse and to try and have an impact on that. And I want to take my comments in a personal direction, because I don't think that Joe has impacted on anybody in life more than me, other than his wife and his kids, and perhaps a few of the students that came through his laboratory. I never was a part of Joe's laboratory, but I've been impacted by Joe in so many ways, very personally. I first met Joe back in the early 1980s when I was a graduate student, just a young pup. And at the time, I didn't know really who he was or what he would become. But like Anne commented on earlier, our paths diverged. But Joe kept coming back into my life and inviting me into things. One of the very important things he did was made me realize who I am as a person. He helped me learn about my roots in New Mexico and how important following that path would be for me. I remember a time when he brought Ricardo Maledi together and sat me down, and the two of them coached me on what I could become in life. I was young. I didn't know what I would become, but he and Ricardo pointed me in a direction. They said it was my duty, but it became my passion. And through that, I became involved in so many things. Spines, SFN, National Hispanic Science Network, diversity program in neuroscience, so many different things. But Joe, I love you. You're an uncle, you're a brother, you're so important to me. Thank you for everything you've done for me personally and professionally. And one of the biggest things that he's done is put me in touch with all of you. This is a family, and I feel the closeness and the love from all of you at this time. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, Keith. Thank you. And we all have benefited also from your true friendship and your mentorship. And Neil, I have not forgotten you. I think you had someone right there fixing the sound for you. Let's see if it works.
Okay, I think it's working now, is it?
Yes,
So my son
perfect.
Neil got it working. Hey, Joe and
Great.
Kimberly.
Hey.
I first want to say hi. And so I first met Joe when he came to UTSA in 1995 as the director for the Division of Life Sciences and the Ewing Hassel Distinguished Chair in Neurosciences. And I immediately liked Joe. People were talking about age and people were talking about hair. Well, it turns out that Joe and I were both born in August of 1944. So we have that in common. And we certainly, if you look at us now, and even back then, we got the same hair pattern, so, and we also like sports. And Joe and I thought that we were sports car enthusiasts because he had this Mitsubishi with a spoiler on the back, and I had an old Ford Probe with a hump on the front. We never got to race because my car got washed away in a great flood that occurred in San Antonio. But seriously, I wanted to thank Joe for a number of things. And number one, for having me as your associate director during all that time that you were director of life sciences. It was a real joy working with Joe on a daily basis, and I learned a lot from him. And also for helping to build biology and UTSA into the great institution that it is today, and for promoting educational opportunities throughout your career for underrepresented students. And I was the first generation student in my own family, so I know how much that means. And something that Joe always had, and I really appreciate, is his humility and his collegiality, towards everyone, regardless of their situation, in spite of all of his accomplishments. And then on a personal basis, I really want to thank him for all the great times that I had with him and in his family, the great food, the company, the beer, that sort of thing. So Joe, I really have enjoyed over the period that you were at UTSA being your colleague, and you were a great one towards me.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. And I remember the giant turtle in the back
Exactly.
of the house. Beautiful. Joe and Kim, your last words.
Sign off.
I'm not going to say anything.
I'm going to thank people, but I need to go get the thing.
Okay. So this is a rare event. It probably occurs once or twice in a person's life. And so to understand how a person has affected you in terms of development, in terms of growth, is really
Sorry. Running out of power.
I hope it's the power cord.
It was the power cord.
hope it's connected to the power, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Beautiful.
Sorry about that.
That's good. Keep going, Joe, please.
What were you saying?
And so over, well, I don't know, I lost my place. So over the years, you know, as I look on this graph, it seems clear to me that the most valued, I guess, elements of this teaching is really the students. And, you know, I couldn't make a student. I could teach a student, but I could not, you know, develop a student into a postdoc or a doctoral student. That requires something else. But on the way, I did learn some things about teaching. And so, you know, we've talked about them all. We've talked about diversity. We've talked about making sure that there's representation. We've talked about making sure there's sufficient students. We've talked about dual career couples. You know, make sure that there's equal numbers of males and females. And so all the statistics kind of go away and leave you with a potpourri of facts, not all of which are that important, but many of them are. But I think the ones that we can internalize and we can believe in and that we can transfer to other folks, I think those are the valuable ones. And they will pop out at you as you head through your career. And, you know, I guess you don't have to fear that they won't show up, because they will. And as you go through this life, you know, you're going to find that the life that you lead will depend a lot upon diversity and all the other beliefs we have as cultural people. And so, you know, being from New Mexico, I think, you know, you see the beautiful pictures of New Mexico. And I think, you know, having grown up in a place like that, you can understand the culture, or at least it's clear there is a culture. And the culture causes growth in a lot of different people. And so culture, to my mind, is kind of the basis of where we start. And I know a lot of people start at Texas A&M or wherever, but I think it's culture. And I think culture provides the bedrock for which we all can develop whatever, you know, our PhDs, our MDs, all of that stuff can come out when we begin to study and develop these ideas that will come from culture as you explore it and understand how that works. So, what was that word you used to use, Eddie, for small shoes?
I don't know if Eddie's still on. Eddie, he's asking, I don't know, Eddie, are you still on? He's asking about a word you use for small shoes.
Small shoes. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is that a word in Spanish? I may be able to help.
Yes.
Chanclitas. Chanclitas, maybe. Zapatitos or something like that.
Chanclitas, that's the word.
Chanclitas.
And so that's a word that exists in all our minds, or most of them. And it carries with it a very unique cultural meaning. And not everybody would understand what chanclitas means. And, you know, but when you put chanclitas into somebody's brain, that idea will rest in their brain, and it will probably cause, you know, something to happen there in terms of, I don't know, cognitive development or some other interesting process. Or I know with me, it was a crazy idea that we could measure acculturation. So we could look at how you grew from being a Chicano to being
Anglo.
Anglo-ish. And we actually could measure it. And we actually published it. So, you know, we got an idea like that, probably from chanclitas. Eddie, thank you for that. And so I know you've been sitting here for 2 hours. I think it's time for me to let you go. I have to tell you that I truly, truly value what you've done for me here today. It means a lot. And it's like I said, these kinds of things don't come around very often in one person's life. And so I greatly appreciate it for that reason.
Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kim, as well. And it's beautiful. I mean, times are changing. We are in the middle of so many things going on around the world. And you'll see, we recorded this entire event. There's tons of comments that are coming through. Our team will have this video and we'll share it with all of you guys. And we thank every single one of you for being part of this. Everybody who's dedicated part of their life to celebrate the life of an amazing friend, mentor, colleague, you know. And I'm going to leave you with one last thought about light, dark, and imagination, because this is something I came up with this on June 13th as I was thinking about, you know, what kind of things I have learned from Joe. And one of the things I learned from Joe, and I came out with this, Joe: true darkness is not the absence of light, but the presence of a belief that light does not exist, and the true absence of imagination. That's darkness, in my opinion. And thanks to you, we have an incredible light to follow. And thanks to you, you have sparked in many of us a true imagination of what is possible. And when you talk about the chancla, you know, you really make us wonder what else we can do in the years and decades to come to make this world a better place. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts on behalf of everybody here. And thank you for spending these last few hours with us.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who showed up. Thank you, Alfredo, and your wonderful team for pulling this all together. It's just incredible for me also just to be a part of this and see all of these incredible faces. And I have so many memories of wonderful times spent with all of you, you know, whether it was in Spines or whether it was in the Cape or whether it was in Texas or California. And I also so value the relationships that I've developed with each and every one of you. And I'm just so grateful that you all showed up today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Over 124 people join in.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you all.
All righty.
Please
Hey,
save
guys.
the chat.
Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Buenas noches. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Anyone else?
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.